Oh, boy. With Toya, this is every parent's nightmare. Your father beat you because you got a report card which said you didn't speak up in class. How dare you shame me, he said, you, as I read your account. Dragged you in the bathroom, threw you on the hard floor. Your mother sobbed the wounds, and you vowed never to make him angry again. He beat you physically only once in your life.
Only once, yes.
You claim you are a member of a dysfunctional family, overseen by a physically domineering father. And the real truth of the family that became world famous and the center of popular culture was actually a family that lived with a big secret. And you are out with a book titled Toya, Growing Up in the Jackson Family. I saw you on the Today Show today with Bryant Gumbel, in which he asked, I thought, a very obvious question. Why? Why do this? Why embarrass your family like this? And you would reply that you're doing it on behalf of abused kids everywhere. Is that right? You want to make your point?
To help abused children everywhere. There's so many children that are afraid to speak out. And to let people know that it's okay to say that I was abused. And it's been hidden, it's been kept in the closet. And if they feel that someone else can come out and say it, someone from a family, a large family that's in the entertainment field and known, then I think they will come out and say, okay, I can speak out and I can let it be known.
Now, from the mountaintop come the amateur analysts, including me. Your parents feel that you are under the spell of a Svengali by the name of Jack Gordon, who is in his own way abusing you. That you're a very vulnerable and pliable human being as a result of your own upbringing. This is kind of basic Freud here, subject to error, of course, especially by amateur analysts like me and others. But you've moved from your father's umbrella into underneath the umbrella of another person. You're not making your own decisions, even to this day, any more than you did as a child. What would you say to that?
But I am. That's where you're wrong at. However, I must say that it was my father who decided to make Mr. Gordon my manager. He's the one who said, he will become your manager. I didn't ask him to be my manager. My father and Mr. Gordon were working together at the time.
You told Bryant you're married to Jack Gordon in name only.
Yes, in name only.
Who wants their daughter to be married in name only? We want our daughters to marry men because they love them.
Well, that's what I wanted, Phil, but it wasn't that way. It didn't work out that way.
Where are we going? Just come on, you have to go somewhere. It was only after we'd pulled up in front of a nondescript little building that Jack announced, come on, we're getting married. I screamed, what? What are you talking about? Toya, listen to me, we have to. This is the only way I can protect you. If you're just manager and client, your family can do whatever they want to. If you're my wife, they can't, because I'm then your legal guardian. You've got to do this for yourself and for me. If you don't, we're going to end up kidnapped, and I'm going to get killed. You go up, Toya, you're not doing it for the, being man and wife in the legal sense only wouldn't protect us fully from my parents, you write, but has at least served as a deterrent. Then it was worth doing. Drying my eyes, I got out of the car still moaning, I can't do this, I'm sorry, I just can't. You get before, I don't know, is this a JP? What am I doing here, you say to yourself? The instant I heard Jack intone, I do. I spun on my heel and stalked out. I just can't do this. You're a bride walking out in the middle of the wedding. You burst into tears. Once again, Jack had to calm me down and marched me back up to the altar. After the officials, I now pronounce you man and wife, we thanked her, it's a woman, and silently stepped out into the warm night air. She must have thought we were the strangest couple she'd ever wed. I bet she did. I know poor Jack was hurt because I refused to even kiss him, but I was frightened and angry. I couldn't help snapping. I just want you to know one thing. We are not married. Sometimes I don't even like you. But now I'm married to you in name only. One thing. I want the original copy of the marriage certificate. This is awful.
No, he's right. It's awful. He's right, but I had to do it. Because my parents were bothering me. They were kidnapping me. They had attempted to do it once. They had done it several times. And the only way that I could protect myself is to have the last name Gordon. The only way. And he was the closest thing to me. Not only that, but of course they had people out to assassinate him as well. And the reason for that is because if you know, if there's any kind of argument and you're with a family, when you call the police on this, they will say that this is a family matter and the police cannot get involved. So their lawyer was right there saying this is a civil matter. If I should call the cops when they made the kidnap attempt. So I had nothing to do. I couldn't do anything about it. So Mr. Gordon said, the only thing you can do now is marry me and your name will become Gordon and you'll be my wife and they can no longer say that or do that to you. And it's a shame that I had to get married that way because I always dreamed of a beautiful white wedding with a nice gown and the flowers and the whole bit. And I find it very ironic that my parents, who hate Mr. Gordon, and they didn't want this to happen, but they pushed us into a marriage that we didn't want, that I didn't want.
After your beating, lying on the bathroom floor, I vowed I would never give Joseph. You never called your father father, dad, papa. No. Lying on the bathroom floor, I vowed I would never give Joseph cause to beat me again. Perhaps I couldn't control him, but I could appease him by controlling myself, you write. This is the self-destructive deal, quotes, many abused children learn. I promised myself I'd never do anything to make him angry. I did start speaking up in class more, but at home I silently observed everything from my little corner behind the kitchen water heater. Desperate to please, I would never make anyone, italics, angry, no matter what. Mother always used to say, Toya is the perfect child, as if it were an accomplishment, when actually I felt there was no choice. Mm. You're being the perfect child now.
No, I'm not. I'm not perfect at all.
Being dragged to the altar? Don't make trouble?
But Phil, I had no choice. I had to do that for my own protection, for my own safety. I mean, the perfect child is not a girl who goes and poses in Playboy. That's not a perfect child. It isn't. That is not a perfect child.
Spirited and supremely confident as a child, Michael was the only one of us who ever hit Joseph back.
Yes, as a little boy.
Whenever my father raised a hand in anger, everyone else stood still and braced for the blow. Michael raced off. When I get you, Joseph growled, but he couldn't catch him. Michael was so fast he could pause to fling a shoe at Joseph and still elude him. Michael was the only child to stand up to Joseph.
The only one. The only one. At a very young age, too, I must say.
And then you talk about adolescence proved awkward for Michael, too. He spouted from just over 5 feet to 5 feet 10. Overnight, it seemed, he went from a cute little boy to a gangly teenager. Certain body parts outgrew others, and now Michael was the object of merciless ribbing, especially from his father. Look at that big nose on your face, Joseph used to taunt him. I don't know where you got that from, big nose. Given the opportunity for revenge at last, my brothers chipped in with their own insults, but none was so mean-spirited and cutting as Joseph's. Michael was terribly upset, always better at dishing out teasing than taking it. Then my mother's earlier prophecy came true. He developed a severe case of acne. He became self-conscious.
Yeah.
He changed.
Yes, very much so.
How?
Well, he was an extrovert then. He was the kind of kid very obnoxious, always just throwing things when you're playing games and just really aggravating and agitating everybody. And once he went through that stage of adolescence, the puberty stage, the acne came, and all of a sudden he changed. He became very introverted, very quiet and silent. And he wouldn't talk much, he wouldn't say anything. And that lasted for about 2 years, the acne, or more. And he remained to be that person, very silent, very quiet.
He was watching Twilight Zone one time when you came in the room.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? Who am I? He was talking about.
It was a program, Who Am I?
And the
And
point...
I don't know if anyone has ever seen it, but it's one of the Twilight Zones, Who Am I? This man who loses his identity, and he doesn't realize who he is. And Michael happened to be watching that when I was out. And I came home, and I walked in for some odd reason. I don't know why. And I opened the door and I said, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" And it frightened him because I said that. But I had no idea he was watching that. And it just, well, of course, it's in the book, it goes on and on. But it was quite interesting and funny at the same time, however.
Mm-hmm. 9 kids.
Oh, yeah.
Gary,
Well,
Indiana.
10, actually.
Huh?
10.
10, you lost a twin brother. Not your twin. Marlon's.
Marlins. Mm-hmm.
Father's a steel worker.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to be a musician. I mean, 9 kids in a cigar box of a house. Proud, home, nice,
Yeah.
no slum. Your mother never wanted, mother's upset that the press later said you grew up in a slum. You didn't, or ghetto.
Right.
You didn't like the word ghetto. It's a good neighborhood.
She didn't like it, no.
Yeah, front yard, backyard,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no cars up on blocks at the Jacksons. Proud family, proud father. Hey, and your father probably wasn't Santa Claus. You know, maybe he wasn't Huggy Bear. 9 kids, all drug-free. You don't see a Jackson trying to buy something on a street corner anywhere. Does he get any credit for this?
Sure he does. They both do. I think when your parents raise you at a very young age that way, and when they teach you against those things, and I said maybe once or twice, it's instilled in your head, and you remember those things. And for some reason, we never did go around that or associated with it. And that was never around us. You have to remember, we were raised very secludedly. My parents really kept a tab on everything we did. They would never really allow anyone to come really near us. So we never really saw it or had a chance to be around it or near it. But of course, everyone got older and got married. And I guess by it being instilled in their minds that they don't do that. We've never done it.
This Michael and Janet and Jermaine, you're not, professionally speaking. So now comes more analysis. LaToya needs a hit. LaToya needs an album. LaToya needs SRO audiences. LaToya needs worldwide fame. And Jack Gordon is going to get it for you. We got lots of promotion going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And it involves taking your clothes off for a second time for Playboy magazine. It involves a book in which you say your father had another life, a mistress with a child.
And other women as well.
Why don't you just sit down and say, Daddy, I hurt. Daddy, you hurt me.
It's not, Phil, just me that hurts. My entire family hurts. My entire family is unhappy. Everyone cries. Everyone is sad. It's not me. I'm the only one that's speaking out. No one else will. That's the problem. They need to speak out, and they won't. They refuse to. You have to remember, we're living, it's a facade. In front of the public, in the public's eye, it's a very happy, joyous family. And that's what we portray to the public. But inside, everybody's crying at home, and everybody's unhappy. It's not the life that people think it is. It's very sad. And the only reason I'm speaking out is to let people know that it's okay to speak out and say that this family's dysfunctional, or what we've done was wrong, what my parents did to us was wrong. The abuse that we had, and that Father gave us, it's entirely wrong. It's okay to say those things. But they won't speak out. No one will speak out and say this. Michael will only tell you what he wants you to know, and the rest of the family will too. But it's not as sweet and apple pie-ish as they say.
Yeah. You told Brian Gumple that Reby was sexually abused by your father. You don't say that in the book.
No, but if you read the book, I do, but I don't elaborate on it. It's mentioned very briefly, very softly. And if you read it carefully, you will find it there. It's something that the book company did not want to really elaborate on because they felt that it would be infringing on someone's personal life. But I feel that abuse is something that we need to speak about, speak openly about. That's what's wrong with society today.
You have 2-hour conversations with Michael.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the 2-hour conversations, he says, I hear you're writing a book.
Mm-hmm.
So Michael is not enthusiastic about discussing this with you, or wants to, but can't, or it's difficult.
It's very difficult. And when he does, it's through lawyers. Again, I think it's a sign of being dysfunctional. Can't really come out and speak to one another in that manner, knowing that something is wrong. Whenever we had a problem in our family, we would never confront the other member. We would go to another member of the family and say, would you please tell Janet this, or would you please tell Michael that I don't think it's right what he's doing? We could never approach that person directly. Why? I don't know. I guess we were afraid of hurting each other's feelings because we felt we had no one else, just each other. Because our father definitely wasn't for us. And later, of course, you learn eventually that the mother is behind everything.
You're upset with your mother as well.
Oh, my mother could have stopped my father from doing what he did. When my father would get in the bed with my sister every single night, my mother knew he was doing that. Some nights, my mother would say to my father, Joe, not tonight. My sister was 16 years old, and she left home. She asked my mother to seek help.
Reby.
Yes, Reby. She said, Mother, please get help for Joseph. My mother did not do that. She asked him and she begged him. She didn't, so Rebe had to leave home. She got tired of my father sleeping in the bed with her, getting in the bed. Mother would allow that to happen. Then there were days when she would say, no, Joe, not tonight. And Rebe told me, she says, LaToya, I worried all these years about you and Janet. Did he ever do to you what he was doing to me? Did he ever sexually abuse you?
And your answer was no.
I didn't answer her. My answer was not no. I didn't answer her. And she said, please tell me. And I said, Rebe, there's just some things that we don't talk about, isn't there? And she says, okay, I understand. That's all she said to me. And she said, what about Janet? And I said, I can't speak for Janet. I don't know.
And we'll be back with LaToya Jackson in a moment. Yes, who had the question back there? Yes, ma'am.
What's your father's reaction to this book?
I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't spoken to my father.
Have you tried?
No, I haven't. No.
Since you've written the book, have anyone in your family reached out to support you?
No, no one's reached out yet. However, they do realize, and they do know that I've written the book because they've tried to put a stop to it many times, but they haven't reached out. However, I was told through my publicist that Michael, publicist, has contacted him several times to have a meeting to discuss the book. But I think it's terrible that he wants to do it through a publicist without picking up the phone and calling me. It's a shame that it has to be that way.
Putnam was going to publish the book,
Yes, they were.
and then they declined.
Yes.
Reports variously that they thought the manuscript was bland.
Well, that's what was said, but that's not what really happened, actually.
They were, I assume you feel apprehensive about the rather bold commentary here, the manuscript, and the potentially libelous comments you make. Although I don't know how you sue us. A sibling or
Also, they
a
were
daughter.
afraid of the family, too, Phil.
Do you have plans for a new album?
Sorry?
Do you have plans for a new album?
Yes, I do. I'm working on that now, actually.
Yes, ma'am.
Do any of you and your brothers and sisters get along?
Oh, yes, we do. We get along very well.
Hi, Phil.
Hi.
Hi, LaToya. I just want to know, are you estranged from all the members of your family? Are you friends with any of the members of your family?
She asked earlier, do we get along? We get along very well, the members of my family. However, at the moment, I haven't spoken to anyone in the family. They're not really speaking to me at the moment. Why? I can't really tell you why. I know it's the book. I assume it's the book, but I figure if they think something's wrong with the book, then why don't they call me and tell me without doing it through lawyers of that sort?
Hi, LaToya. Did you ever think about getting therapy, or did you ever go to therapy about your problems?
I thought about it once, but I think the best therapy for me was when I wrote the book. It released so much out of me, and that's what I want my family to do, because I certainly hope and wish that we can all get together one day and really talk this over. And I think the best thing is for us to get it over with and just put our heads together and just cry and let it all out, because there's so much clogged in everybody's mind.
But in front of the whole world? I mean, wouldn't it make sense just to go to a therapist and try to work it out with your family first before you...
You don't understand my family. My family will never, never admit any of this. They won't. They would never admit
It's not anybody
it.
else's business. It really isn't. I mean, I love your family, and
But
just
see,
to hear
what you don't understand is that I'm writing this book not for just my family. It's for other people who have been abused, so they can speak out about it. This is a major problem that we have in America today, and no one is really speaking out. It's just so happened to be that my family happened to be very known and in the public's eye.
The entire Jackson family appeared on the Donahue show a little over a year ago, absent you and Michael. Your mother and father were guests on the program. Here's just a piece of that program during which we talk about you. It was on our show, as you know. I hope you know. Yeah, you do know.
I saw that.
It was on the occasion of the Playboy issue, and we did understand that you, who I guess I would be too. I mean, who wouldn't be upset? But boy, the point should be made. She's done nothing illegal, and she's such a bright, beautiful, talented young woman. She left home late. I mean, she didn't bail out at 19. She was in her late 20s. Maybe Joe
You might have. Well, maybe the leash was a little too short. I don't know. I'm asking. You ever wonder that? If you maybe you give him a little more room? I don't know. I'm asking.
No, Toya left on her own accords, and so, you know.
I know she did.
And she had all the room she needed.
She did.
So it's the same way about coming back, you know. When she get ready to come back, we're always there for her.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
She left because she wanted to, and she had the freedom to leave anytime she wanted to. Well, I know a lot of publicity's been out there that we had reins on her and everything, but that's not true. I think it was done for reasons.
1989, the Jackson family on Donahue. Parents love you.
I love them too.
We'll be back in a moment. New York City with LaToya Jackson. We should say that her husband, and that's what he is, legally speaking, Jack Gordon, is in the audience. Jack? May I have a moment of your time? Would you kindly stand? Her parents don't like you even a little bit.
Not even the tiniest bit.
You're a man who's done time for racketeering. You say you were set up. We're not going to retry it here. Let's accept, for the moment, your claim of innocence. But
I was found guilty. I was found guilty by a jury of my peers.
So you certainly, we are not surprised that Joe and Catherine Jackson would be more than a little upset, you know, finding you in their daughter's life.
Joe and Catherine Jackson knew about this when I first met them, within 4 days, in 1984.
Yes. It was your idea, the Playboy pictorial was your idea?
Yes.
Now, LaToya is working fairs and other places around the country.
That's correct.
And you hope that the money will roll in, and there's no sin in that.
The money does roll in.
Right. Let me say that we have consented not to take phone calls during this program. You asked us not to.
That's right.
Okay. And we won't. I want you to know that I talked to Mr. and Mrs. Jackson, LaToya's parents, and I asked them how they felt about the book and other obvious questions. I talked to them on the phone about an hour ago, and I videotaped it. So all you'll hear are Mr. and Mrs. Jackson, the voices of Mr. and Mrs. Jackson. LaToya is not going to be obliged to talk to them. This is not a live phone call. This is about 5 minutes of the response of parents who are quite deeply wounded by this very, very personal biography of their daughter. I'd like you and LaToya to listen to this, and then perhaps you'll both offer us your opinions, all right? Here's the tape that I recorded with Joseph and Catherine an hour ago. On the line from their home in California are LaToya's parents, Joseph and Catherine Jackson. Can you hear me, Mr. and Mrs. Jackson?
Oh, yes. How are you?
Very good.
Great.
You know, this is my opinion, as humiliating a punch in the nose as a parent could take from a child. Do you agree?
Yes, we do.
Yes, totally agree. Yes.
Let me just give you a couple things from have you read the book?
No, I haven't.
Not really.
Catherine?
No, I haven't read it. I looked at a few pages and I felt so bad I just couldn't keep on. So I just put the book down.
The reason we didn't read the book because there's a bunch of lies in there all the way through the book.
I was 6 when I got the beating of my life, writes your daughter, LaToya. A straight-A student, I always looked forward to report card day since it was one of the few times Joseph might praise me. Late one afternoon, I happily carried home my grade card because Mother was at work, presented it to my father. You tore it open. The note on the report card said, LaToya's work is excellent, but she rarely speaks up in class, and so I feel it might be best to hold her back a grade. Joseph put down the report card and suddenly smacked my face with his open palm. Don't you ever shame me again, he shouted. And then he took off his belt and reached for the switch employed so often around our house. As a metal buckle and like a whip-like branch seared my skin, I cried, no, please stop. But my father was beyond hearing. If I close my eyes, I can still see his face, so on, so. You will never shame me like this again, she quotes you as saying. But I do study. Why are you beating me? You drag her to the bathroom. She says there's blood. Your mother came in and silently cleaned my cuts and bruises before tucking me in next to Reby. I promised, she said to herself, I'll never make him angry again. I did start speaking up in class, and I became a perfect child, which is the way abused children respond to this. This didn't happen, Joe?
No, it did not, Phil. It did not happen, and I don't know anything about that, and Catherine can bear with me.
It's all lies, Phil. It's not the truth.
You, she claims, Catherine, are an anti-Semite, which you spoke often and negatively about Jews.
Phil, that is not true.
That's not true, Phil.
Well, what is this, Joe?
If anyone knew who Toya was married to, which is her manager to, if they know his background, they know that this is what this man does. I'm not putting all the blame on him. I blame my daughter too. I feel sorry for her. I feel that she's being brainwashed. I really do. Because this stuff is not true. Yeah. So evidently she has to be brainwashed or something's wrong there.
The whole thing is just terrible.
Joe, she has you handing the phone to her. She wants to speak to you, a young woman on the other line, a girl. Will you just say hi to her, you asked LaToya. Thinking he was talking about some fan, I asked, what's her name? You reply, Joe, according to LaToya's book, Anna. That Anna. He didn't say. He just dialed the number and handed me the receiver. A brief conversation, a girlish squeal. Oh, I love you so much, she said to LaToya. I want to be just like you. Oh, that's nice. I'm so happy you called me. Anna, she says, is your daughter by another woman, and that you led a double life, and that you housed your other family in the same neighborhood. Is this true, Joe?
No. I don't have a daughter named Anna.
You don't have another family?
No daughter named Anna, Phil.
She says that Catherine knows about this, Joe.
LaToya been talking the whole family, not just me, just the whole family. You know, and this is terrible what she's doing out there.
Yeah. Catherine, do you have anything to say about that?
Well, Phil, the only thing I'd like to say is I feel that my daughter's being brainwashed. I feel that, and I know who's doing it, and he know he know what he's doing. The minute she left this house, that was his intention. She's not the only one he's done like that. He's tried to do some other woman that he was staying with the same way, but he didn't succeed in that.
Right.
Because he was threatened.
Yes. LaToya went home and her room was filled with Jermaine's clothes. There was evidence in LaToya's words that she was banished from the family.
No, LaToya, no. Jermaine was staying with us at the time, and he just used her room to put some empty suitcases and some clothes he wasn't using.
Yeah.
And she only came by to pick up some things for herself.
Can LaToya come home, Catherine?
Pardon?
Can LaToya come home?
Can she?
Yes, of course.
Of course she can. We've always said that. The doors are always open. And I'd like to tell her that we love her. What she's doing out there is really hurting us very badly. We're hurting our hearts. There's not an ounce of truth in it, and she knows it, too. I don't understand what's wrong with her.
Bill, when we came to New York that time, we came to visit her. We didn't come there to kidnap her or nothing like that. We were just in the area of Asbury Park, and we decided to come over to New York to visit her. So, you know, they're playing upon that, so that's not true.
But you would like... Why don't you have a family meeting and talk about these things? Isn't that a possibility?
We do have family meetings.
To which LaToya is invited?
Of course.
Yes, we can never get through to her.
LaToya's problem is she listens to Jack Gordon. He tells her everything, and he's brainwashed her. He makes her think that we hate her, that we're trying to keep her career from going, and that's not us at all. We haven't done anything,
well,
him or her, since they've been out there. I'm only praying for her, and I wish that she would come home. And our doors are still open for her, and the family still loves her. But we just hate that she's doing this to us. We don't know why she's doing it.
Phil, I
we
never
do feel that she's being brainwashed.
I never whipped LaToya in her life.
You never whipped her?
Never.
She didn't get all those beatings she says she got. I doubt if she got one beating in her life.
She says she only got one.
And that was from me.
Well, what are your thoughts?
It's not true, Phil. Everything they're saying is totally a lie. It's so obvious of what they're saying. I can only be honest and speak the truth. And that's what's wrong. They don't want to be honest.
They're trying to defend themselves.
They're what?
First of all, they're trying to defend themselves against this book.
Of course.
If she writes lies, who is going to print the lies? No one.
No. And of course the little girl's name was not Anna. I didn't want to offend the little girl.
Well, you changed the name.
Of course I changed the name, but my father does have another family. And my mother comes in.
Well, don't do that.
That's not really important. That's not important.
Well, you know, let's without trying the case. You know, it's hard to want to take your parents to the gallows here.
Phil, I'm not taking my parents to the gallows. I could have taken them to the gallows, but I didn't.
I mean, for parents, this might be worse.
Phil, I could have, but I did not, because I didn't want to do that to them. I only wanted... in that book, I praised my mother, and I also praised my father. However, at the same time, I want the message to come through that we were abused children, and it's affected everybody in the family. My brothers and sisters have come to me, each one crying, telling me that they are afraid of my father, and they're grown adults. They're tired of him slapping them and hitting them with his fist in the face.
I'll be back in just a moment.
I want to know, why wasn't your book published earlier?
Because there was a stop put to my book. There were a lot of things that prevented my book from being published, and my family had everything to do with it, simply because they didn't want it to be printed. And I felt that whatever they had done to me, or whatever problems it may cause, the message in the book was much stronger than that. And I wanted that to, no matter what, be delivered so they can see that.
This has nothing to do with your book.
Sorry?
Where's your snake?
My snake's at home.
Yes. You originally said you wanted to reach children. That was the first thing you said. Do you think that publishing a book that probably cost $20 and working for Playboy is the best way to reach children?
No, these are abused children. Working for Playboy doesn't have anything to do with reaching children in that sense.
How old are you and your husband?
Sorry?
How old are you and your husband, he asks.
Gosh, I don't know how old he is. I don't. I think he's 53, 52.
5'2"?
Yes,
and you are?
I'm 35.
3'5". Yeah.
Can you honestly say that you're happily married?
No, we're not happily married. We're married in name only.
Huh. And so then you would have to say that you don't love Jack Gordon.
No, he's a friend of mine, and he's my manager.
I would say, as a child growing up, I was whipped several times, and you said your father whipped you once. Now, I wouldn't really call that being abused.
No, you're absolutely right. Being whipped is not considered child abuse. I was beat. Not only me, but my brothers were beat every single day. Would you call being sexually abused what he did to my sister not being sexually abused? Yeah. My mother allowing that to happen, the lady that you saw on the screen who denied everything that I said? Yeah. Yeah. Well, she was beat also as well. And this lady allows to stay with him knowing that he has all of these girlfriends. Yes, but that's her choice, if that's what she wants.
Sure. Excuse me, you say that you have great love in this family and your mother was very concerned about the children. Why do you think that she would have tolerated this if it was brought to her attention, with you profess that it was called to her attention?
That's all a part of my book. That's what my biggest concern was. Why did mother allow this to happen? Why did she let this happen? You have to remember that when a child is being abused and treated very, very badly, they try to look for the better parent to love and to cling on to, and we all clinged on to mother, hoping that she would show some type of love, in which, in fact, she did. But later on, you realize that she's the one that was really manipulating everything and saying, Joe, okay, that's enough. You don't have to do it any longer.
Thinking back over all those years, I realized that my mother was the guiding force behind the cruelty and abuse. This lady who pretended to be so gentle on the surface had, in fact, caused all the turmoil in our lives.
Yes.
This is almost like a postscript. I'm going to get Mom now. We'd always thought that it was Joseph, but it was her, telling him what to do and how to do it. You appear to be ad-libbing this book and kind of attaching terrible arrows in the heart here as you go along.
No,
yes.
What I'm doing is telling you the fact of life, what happened in my family. I lived that life. I know what happened. I was there. And this is exactly what took place. When my mother felt that we had enough, the brothers I should say, because I was only beat once, my mother felt it was enough, then she'd say, Joe, that's enough. When my father grabbed him by the collarbone so many times and choked him, she allowed that to happen. He was turning purple. He was purple in the face and crying, saliva coming from his mouth. And then she said, Joe, it's enough. You can put him down now. It's almost as if the spell was on. I don't know why she did these things, but she did them.
We'll be back in a moment.
I don't believe that you could sing really, and I want to know. I want you to sing a verse for us.
Oh, that's not very fair, is it? Are you upset with it, Latoya? Why would you say such a thing?
I think you're only big because of the name, the Jackson. I only think you're only.
No, that's not true. I'll tell you why. Because I have 8 brothers and sisters, and I think you hear mainly about 2 of them, Michael and Janet. And no one talks about the other Jacksons who haven't been successful. Why me? Why all the time are they speaking about me? There are other Jacksons in the family, too.
She wrote the book. Hold it.
Yeah, I did write the book.
Yes.
I did write the book, yes.
I wanted to know, why do you feel that you still need a legal guardian at 35 to keep away from your parents?
Simply because the kidnapping, no matter what, I'm still their daughter, no matter what age you are, and they can still do whatever they want. I know it sounds really weird and bizarre, but what you guys don't understand, there are a lot of details in the book that Phil, of course, we can't hit on within an hour, but my father collects guns, and he would have a gun all the time, and he would hold it up to our heads and pull the trigger. My mother would sit there and let him do it, and she'd say, Joe, what if a bullet goes off? And he'd go, Kate, it's empty. All the time he would do this. She says, but what if one is stuck? And he would just put the gun to our heads and just pull the trigger constantly.
Yes.
And he got a kick out of that. He'd laugh about it.
I have a remark and 2 questions. Obviously, you're very intelligent, or you wouldn't be where you are today. Your family's been in the limelight for a long period of time. What did you wait until now for to get this message across? And secondly, what do you hope to accomplish now that you've hurt your family?
I have not hurt my family. I'm hoping that this will help them because children are being abused everywhere. My family happens to be known, yes, as I mentioned earlier to you, and they are in the limelight. But my family should realize that they can't keep hiding this. This is a facade that they're putting up, and they can't keep hiding like this. They're very unhappy.
Over here.
They talk about it and discuss it all the time, but they won't to outsiders.
Do you think by appearing in Playboy you were rebelling against your family?
Against my mother and father, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely my mother.
Latoya, I got a question. Why haven't you ever pressed charges against your father if he really did sexually abuse you?
Well, I didn't really say he sexually abused me. I mentioned my sister. She's the one who came out in the open and really mentioned it and said it.
Why didn't she press?
That's a sign of a dysfunctional family who keeps everything silent, who won't come out and tell everything.
Over here, please.
There's a lot of great ways to help abused children. Do you give any of the percentage of the profits of this book to abused
Yes, I will
children?
be. Yes, I will be.
Yeah.
Hi, I'd like to know how else you plan to help children that have been abused.
Not only do I help children that are abused, I help all kinds of children. I help children who are dying of AIDS and suffering from AIDS. I spend a lot of my time giving a lot of charity work to children in general because I feel bad for children in general who have suffered any kind of pain because I know what it's like to suffer. You have not been there. If anybody in this audience have been abused, then they know what it feels like. And it's not a great feeling at all.
And we'll be back in a moment.
All right. For those of you who didn't believe, roll up your sleeves. And if you're hanging, and if you're not,
Latoya Jackson in concert. The book is titled Toya, Growing Up in the Jackson Family, featuring prominently a full-page picture of, obviously I'm not ready to show it, you and Jack. You identify him as your manager, friend, and, thirdly, husband. You know, some folks might see this as Jack's effort to get back at Joe and Catherine.
He has nothing to do with this. As a matter of fact, I must say that he always says, Latoya, those are your parents. Love them, speak to them, talk to them all the time. My mother won't. I call my mother on the phone all the time. She thinks it's Janet. It's fine. Oh, hi, honey, how are you doing? And she finds out it's Latoya. I'm busy. She hangs the phone up. This happens to me all the time. And I'm left devastated, and he says, don't worry about it. She'll get over it.
Hi.
You said that you and Jack are married in name only. I'm wondering if you are allowed to date, and also if you sleep together.
No, we don't sleep together.
You
And
do
my,
not sleep together.
No, we don't.
And are you allowed to date?
I don't date, no.
You don't date at
No,
all?
I don't, because I'm so busy right now at the moment. That's the only reason why.
Are you still a Jehovah's Witness?
No, not at all. No.
Latoya, my attitude seems to be that, you know, the hits aren't coming, the times are a little rough, and this seems to be something to get you out there in front of the nation.
What you have to realize, what you must realize is that this book took me 3 years to write. Within those 3 years, I was offered a lot of movie roles, things that are far more lucrative than this book. This book has nothing to offer me.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with hits or anything else. I'm doing just fine on my own. I don't need this book.
Right.
This is strictly a message for people who don't understand.
Latoya, you do, I don't know where you're going on this tour. Bryant Gumbel was rough this morning. That was no picnic, that 6 minutes on the Today Show for you, and this has hardly been a standing ovation here. I'm not commenting on the validity of the book. You're going to suffer with this. You're going to take some bites, some hits, some abuse.
If I reach one person, Phil, that's all that matters. If anybody knows what it feels like to suffer like that and to be beat like that, and your mother allowed this to happen, then that's sad, that's bad. And the audience, if they don't agree, that's fine. That's fine. That's their decision. That's their choice. I'm not here to make you believe it or whatever. It's the truth, and I wrote it.
And we'll be back in a
And I will
moment.
stand by it, no matter what.
Latoya, I came from a family with alcohol abuse, and I think what you're doing is really great, but there's another step, and that step is to take responsibility for healing yourself, and there's a lot of wonderful 12-step groups out there, and I hope that you'll do that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Latoya, would you like to find a loving husband and have children of your own someday?
Eventually, yes, I would.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll ever have a normal relationship with your parents?
Yes, I think so within time, sure.
Do you think your father was abused when he was a child?
Yes, I was told he was.
How soon do you think you're going to reconcile with your parents?
I hope soon. I hope very soon.
I still don't think I like the idea of my brother or sister reporting my sexual abuse.
Latoya, you're old enough. Get your own life.
Thank you. Thank you.